Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. We talk a lot about compounding in personal finance, and for good reason. It's one of the most powerful tools when it comes to building wealth over time. And I know you've seen the charts and the projections and the calculators, and you've heard it before. The long-term return in the stock market is around 10%. And yes, compounding is incredibly useful for planning. It gives us a framework to see what consistent investing might look like. And quite frankly, it's motivating to see what a few $1,000s could turn into over time. That's inspirational, and that's a good thing. So let's talk about it. If you were to invest $5,000 every single year and capture a 10% rate of return, here's what it would grow to over time. After 20 years, it'd be just under $300,000. After 30 years, over $800,000. And after 40 years, $2.2 million. That's pretty impressive, right? Well, what if for a moment we drop the theory and we look at historical returns? Specifically, we look at the real performance of the S&P 500 with dividend reinvestment over this similar time frame. And we asked, what would have happened if I really did invest $5,000 every single year? Here's what the results really were. If you did a 20-year period from 2005 to 2004, you would have about $262,000. A 30-year period from 1995 through 2004, just under $600,000. And for a 40-year period, going from 1985 to 2024, you'd have about $1.8 million. Now, as you can see, those numbers are quite a bit different. And that makes sense because long-term returns aren't smooth. Markets go up, they crash, they rebound, and all of this volatility has a drag down effect when it comes to compounding, even when the long-term average is 10%. Now, what if we were to use a more conservative number, like an 8% rate of return? Well, we'll see that over a shorter time frame, the gap does narrow, but by the time we get to a 40-year time horizon, there's still a pretty meaningful difference. With an 8% consistent annual return, 20 years of investing, $5,000 every single year, you have about $228,000. After 30 years of investing, about $566,000. And after 40 years of investing, about $1.3 million. Compounding is powerful, but it's not perfect. These tools are incredibly useful when it comes to developing a plan and setting a goal, but it's also important to know the limitations of these tools because in the real world, returns are kind of messy, and that messiness certainly has a real impact on your outcomes. Now, to be more fair, what if we ran the same situation and used the actual average annualized rate of return? Here's what this would look like. For the past 20 years, the S&P 500 averaged just over 8%. This would give you a total of $230,000 invested if you had captured this on an annual basis. For the past 30 years, that average has been closer to 9.37%. This would give you $730,000. And over the past 40 years, that average has been closer to 10.6%. Meaning your investment, if you could capture this consistently, would be $2.6 million. And now wait a second, that's even higher than the real historical outcome. And that's the point. Averages don't tell the whole story. Even if those averages are accurate, they assume a steady rate of return. But the market isn't like that. Markets have ups and downs, and the order of those ups and downs have a really dramatic impact on your outcome. Now at this point, you may be asking, why are the real outcomes so different than the projections? And let's break it down, because this one's really important. First and foremost, simulated returns are smooth, real life isn't. When we run our projections using a fixed rate like 8% or 10%, we assume a world where this just grows perfectly in an upward sloping fashion every single year, where you put your $5,000 in and it compounds on itself the same way it did the year before. There's no crashes, there's no booms, there's no volatility. Everything grows in a neat and tidy and completely organized fashion. In other words, a totally unrealistic fashion. These models are mathematical tools. They're great for planning, but they don't reflect what you actually experience once you invest in the real world. Real returns are lumpy and uneven. Take the S&P over the past 2 decades. Even with dividends reinvested, it has been a complete roller coaster. A 37% drop in 2008, a 32% surge in 2013, back-to-back negative 18% returns in 2022 and 2023, followed by a positive 26% return in 2024. These kind of market swings really distort how your portfolio performs over time, and depending on when and how they happen, it can make your portfolio look dramatically different than, say, a smooth 8% rate of return. We often hear about sequence of returns risk in retirement. When you're withdrawing from your portfolio, early and significant losses can be absolutely devastating on a portfolio. But here's what a lot of people miss. It matters just as much during your wealth building years. If you're investing $5,000 every single year and early on you experience really strong returns, this money gets the longest runway to grow. That money gets to compound for 20, 30, or 40 years. But if your early contributions coincide with a market downturn, say a recession hits in year 2 or 3 of investing for you, well, suddenly your early dollars are compounding from a much smaller base. So even though you keep investing, you've lost some of that compounding power. And here's the kicker. 2 investors can have the exact same average return over 30 years, but wildly different outcomes just based on when the gains and losses happened. It's a reminder that order of returns, not just averages, plays a huge role in long-term wealth building, and why you want to keep investing and plan for volatility to ensure your success as an investor. This one trips up a lot of people, and it matters more than you might think. You'll often hear that the market returns an average of 10% per year. And while that might be the arithmetic average, it doesn't tell the full story. What really matters is your compound annual growth rate. The actual returns you experience after accounting for all the volatility, all the ups and the downs, and how that really compounds over time. Let's make this real with an example. Imagine you invest $100 and in the first year you lose 50%. Now you're down to $50. In the second year, the market goes up 50%. You're back to $75. Even though the average return at this point is 0, 50% down, followed by 50% up, your portfolio is still down 25%. A 50% drop takes a 100% gain to recover. And that math eats away at compounding over time. And it's not just extreme drops. A 25% drop takes a 33.3% gain just to break even. This is the compounding math that often gets overlooked. Losses require disproportionately higher gains to recover, and that can really create a drag on your long-term wealth creation when volatility is high. Said another way, losses hurt more than gains help, and over time, that difference compounds. So even though the market might average a 10% rate of return, your portfolio might have a compounded annual growth rate of, say, 8% or 9%, depending on when and how these returns are distributed. That's why it's so important to look at real-world performance and not just averages over time, and that way you can truly understand what's happening with your portfolio. So what's the takeaway? Projections are useful, but they're not promises. They help us plan and set goals, and they keep us motivated. But in the real world, it's a lot messier. There's volatility, there's investor behavior, there's timing, and all of this comes together to make for a different outcome. So what do the best investors do? They use these projections to prepare, not to predict the future. And they plan for volatility, not perfection. And they know it's not about guessing an exact return, but rather it's building a plan that still works even when the road gets a little bumpy, because it will. But here's another thing I want to say. A lot of these projections are truly inspiring. They're a way to light the fire and get people motivated. Because when you see that you could invest just $500 every single month and become a millionaire in 35 years, that gets you motivated to want to invest. And maybe it takes you longer to get there. Maybe you get there faster, but either way, you have to invest. No matter how good our calculators or our charts get, we're never going to be able to predict how the market will perform, but we can use these imperfect tools to point us in the right direction. So maybe the real takeaway is this: compounding is magical, but it still takes effort. You have to show up, you have to keep investing, and yes, probably increasing your savings rate over time, because it's not just about what the market gives, it's also what you're willing to put in. So what are your thoughts? Share them in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. And I cannot do it. My microphone is like higher because I'm trying to get the audio better. It's freaking me out how close it is. I cannot. It's like, okay. Sorry, I'm just used to having it lower and out of view, and now it's like, I almost fell off my chair. That would have been embarrassing for me. So what's the takeaway? Compounding is powerful. Learn to pause. Learn to pause, Erin. Ooh, I just want to go to bed. 8:35, I can make it, I think. I worked from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. some days. It was too long to work. I do take breaks to take care of a kid, which some would argue is not a break. I'm tired. That's the moral of that story.